I'm interested in just you talking a little bit more about your um, experience of when you were like really connecting with God, and you said like everything was glistening and bright. Um, I've experienced that person in like years gone by where I was in different seasons, and then I've heard of people, um, who've had visions and encounters in heaven and actually been there for an extended period of time in the vision and coming out, and everything is just alive and bright. And I've heard people describe that as the glory of God, being in that glory dimension. Um, I'm not really asking a question. Can you just talk a little bit more about your experience? Because also what happens when somebody shares an experience like that, sometimes and often it does open it up for others. And I don't understand why that is or how that works, but I've definitely seen that and others talk about that. So if there's no questions and we've got a few minutes, do you want to talk a little bit more about your experiences like that, where you've just come alive in God and how that is?
Okay. A quick thought as I enter into that is I think of when Jesus was at Lazarus' house, Mary and Martha. Martha was doing, busy cooking. She was doing here. Mary sat at his feet, being. Martha was so busy working for God, she didn't spend time with God. And I think that is kind of a picture of what happens to anyone and everyone. We live our whole life doing because we're more comfortable working, doing. That's how we were raised. You do these things and brings you. But when Martha tried to get Jesus to rebuke Mary, he said, Mary has chosen the far better thing. She has chosen to be with me. And there was such a sharp contrast. And I look at my life and I realize I've been Martha in so many instances in my life, hungering for God, right? As I shared last time, just this deep yearning to really be intimate with God. And yet everything that I had been trained in, I had kind of hit the ceiling. And so it's scary, it's fearful to reach out. And I addressed that a bit last time is because I don't want to go off the deep end. In fact, my parents, they cautioned me. They said, Don, we hope you're not going crazy because I was in such pursuit of the Lord. But I think you get to this spot where your heart knows you can have this. It's there. But the mind wants you to work at it, and it just sounds too simple, right? Just to sit at his feet. Got to be more than that. That's the mind talking, right? So what has happened for me is I begin to just rest in the Lord, and I'll have my whole body vibrate. I'm not looking for it, but it will begin to just, it's alive. And I know God is there, resident, and it's like, almost like if this keeps up, I might just, come apart. But you're not afraid. There's this deep, rich peace that you're in his hands, and nothing bad is going to happen, only good. And what that begins to create in me is an awareness and knowledge of how real God is in me and how much I want to align with him at all times. I want to see what he sees. I want to be available. And so that's what begins to work in me is whatever you show me to do, I'll do, no matter if it looks stupid to my mind or I don't get it, I don't understand. And that's just being available, like Mary, just sitting at the feet of the Lord, her mind knowing there was work to do, probably knowing Martha was ticked at her, but there was this yearning to be at one. And I think that's what is such a driving force. So as I spend these moments, like the other morning, I sat in the chair for about an hour and 10 minutes. It felt like 2 minutes. I don't know where the time went. I was kind of taken back. It's like, it can't have been 70 minutes. There's just no way. But it's like I was fully there. But it's almost like I was in another place. But so restful, peaceful. When you rise up out of that, this peace I was talking about is so strong in you. And I'm grateful because of what happened last week. You know, a few weeks ago, I would have had anxiety. I would have been stressed. There's so many things that my human nature kicks in. Whereas now I'm realizing this peace of God is sustaining me. I'll do what I'm supposed to do as God makes me aware. But if I let fear and anxiety rule the day, I'll start saying things, doing things, activity, but it doesn't do any good. And what it does is it causes me harm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this peace that rose up was so wonderful. And I knew that was because I've been spending time with God, and I've come to this, I've really been embracing this idea that God knows everything. He knew my son was going to have a stroke. He knew that my mom would struggle. That was not a shock to him. And by me resting in the fact that he knew those things, I don't have to do something to fix it, to make it right. What I've got to do is say, what do you want me to do, God? You know I love them, but you love them even more than I do. What do you want me to do? And so I'm resting in that, and it's crazy because my mind definitely wanted to get active, but I found this rich place of trust. And it was just amazing. Does that make sense? Does that?
Yeah, no, it does. It just sounds like it's rooted in, like you just said, a deep place of trust.
Yes.
Like I was really connecting with the Lord in a session, and I would go, and it was good because what I found is doing this, it helped me separate some of the noise in my mind and my soul, and actually identify what they were, and actually deal with some things that could otherwise be constantly these reoccurring negative emotions that are rooted somewhere. And so that's good because these things surface and you identify them. And some of the things that surface today are primarily just related to trust. You know, like I said, learning to trust the child at another level, that these things don't fix in your mind or your emotions.
Yes.
And just one more question. I think you've said it, you've answered it, but so when you, I know there's no formula, but would you say there's things you can point to in terms of yourself or the type of quiet time you have or whatever that is that leads to a deeper connection with the Lord? Like you had that time or other times, you get a trend, you say, man, when I'm like this or like that, or when I tend to do that, or do they just primarily, mostly just catch you off guard? You're in the discipline of being quiet, and then one day he shows up.
See, I think, we want to I want to figure out if I do this, this, and this, I'm going to have this electrifying experience, right? Right?
Yeah.
But then I've got this thing that I'm doing, and what that ends up doing is excluding God to a point, right? because instead of just centering in him, I'm doing step 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to get this result. Oh, wow. Then before I know it, all I want is that electrifying experience and not centering in God. You know, it's like people want the gifts of God, but they don't necessarily want God.
That's good.
You see?
Yeah.
So I read this thing this morning, and I'll just leave this with you. This guy was complaining because his whole day was drab and dreary and gray. So he sees his friend that night at dinner, and he says to him, "This day has been such a hard day. It's drab and dreary and gray." And his friend said, "Well, you've got those dark gray sunglasses on. Maybe if you take them off, the day might look a little brighter." He took them off and he said, "Oh, wow, it is bright out." And I think that happens to us. You know,
Yeah.
we let the mind become those gray glasses, and when we take them off, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Thank you. Just that's particularly relevant. I had an incident. I was driving somewhere back years ago in South Africa. My brother was following me. We were driving from South Africa to Zimbabwe. We drove through a tunnel, and next thing I get a call on the phone. And he says, I can't see a thing. And he was stretching. And then simultaneously we realized he still had his sunglasses on. Kind of funny. So your example struck the chord with me.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Thanks, Don.
I appreciate you guys being with me today. Really, thank you. And Bob, anything? Are you good?
No, I'm good. I really appreciate you sharing earlier, Don. Just know that you're in our thoughts and prayers with your son and your mom, and just really appreciate your testimony and share today. It's very encouraging.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, you know, I owe it to the Lord, right? I mean, he's everything he says he is, and that's pretty awesome. Well, our time is...
I just want to ask, how is your son current right now?
He is improving, and it looks like he's going to get... I think he's going to get a full recovery. That's what we're seeing the indications of. He got into the hospital fast enough. He didn't let enough time go by. He got in so quickly, and the emergency stopped everything and just ministered to him. And they were telling him it was smart that he got in. So they were able to, they found the blood clot, and it's been negated now. So it looks like he should have a full recovery. But obviously, any prayers for him, his name is Dustin, be appreciative of.
Okay, sure.
All right. Well, be blessed and have an amazing day, guys. Thanks for spending this time with me.
See you, Bob.
Thank you. See you, Neil. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye now.
Goodbye.